Hello there, and welcome to the Slumber Lab, where curiosity gets cozy and the cosmos becomes our bedtime companion. I'm so glad you're here, whether you're settling into your favorite reading nook, curling up under a warm blanket, or simply letting your mind wander as the day winds down. Tonight, we're embarking on a gentle journey to explore one of the most beautifully perplexing questions that has ever tickled the human imagination. Can the universe actually have a size at all? It's the kind of question that makes your brain feel pleasantly fuzzy, like trying to imagine the edge of forever or wondering what happens when an unstoppable force meets an unmovable object, except this time we're asking whether everything that exists can be measured with a cosmic ruler. Before we drift into this starlit exploration, I'd love to know where in the world you're listening from tonight and what time it is in your corner of the universe. Are you watching the sun set through your window, or perhaps seeing the first stars peek through the gathering dusk? There's something wonderfully fitting about pondering the size of everything while nestled in your own small, comfortable space. If you find this celestial wandering soothing, or if it sparks that delightful kind of curiosity that makes you want to learn more, I'd be ever so grateful if you gave this video a gentle like and perhaps subscribed to join our little community of cosmic contemplators. It helps more fellow stargazers find their way to our sleepy corner of the internet. Now, I do hope this exploration isn't so fascinating that it keeps you wide awake. But if it does, at least you'll drift off with your mind full of infinite possibilities and the gentle mysteries of existence itself. So take a deep breath, let your shoulders relax, and let's begin this quiet voyage into the question of whether the universe can truly be said to have boundaries at all. Picture, if you will, a child standing in their backyard on a clear summer evening, gazing up at the stars with that wonderful mixture of awe and bewilderment that children possess so naturally. They might ask their parent, with the kind of innocent directness that cuts right to the heart of things, "How big is space?" It's such a simple question, isn't it? And yet, as we'll discover together, it opens up layers of mystery that have puzzled the brightest minds in human history. When we think about size in our everyday world, it seems straightforward enough. Your coffee mug is about 4 inches tall. Your living room might be 12 feet wide. The distance to your local grocery store could be 2 miles. These measurements feel solid, reliable, comfortingly finite. We can walk around objects, measure them with rulers, compare one thing to another. Size, in our terrestrial experience, is something we can grasp quite literally with our hands and metaphorically with our minds. But when we lift our gaze from the familiar dimensions of home and neighborhood to contemplate the cosmos itself, something rather extraordinary happens. The very concept of size begins to shimmer and shift like heat waves rising from summer pavement. We find ourselves asking not just, how big is the universe, but the more fundamental question that forms the heart of our gentle inquiry tonight. What does it even mean for the universe to have a size? You see, when we measure the size of anything in our daily lives, we're implicitly comparing it to something else, or placing it within a larger context. That coffee mug is 4 inches tall compared to the ruler we're using. Your living room is 12 feet wide within the larger framework of your house, which sits on a street, in a neighborhood, in a city. There's always something bigger, some reference frame that contains the thing we're measuring. But here's where our cosmic puzzle becomes deliciously perplexing. If the universe truly contains everything that exists, then what could we possibly compare it to? What reference frame could contain it? It's a bit like asking someone to step outside of themselves to take their own photograph, or trying to lift yourself up by pulling on your own shoelaces. The very act of measurement seems to require something outside the thing being measured, but by definition, there's nothing outside the universe. This isn't just a philosophical word game, though it certainly has philosophical implications that we'll explore as we journey deeper into the night. It's a genuine puzzle that sits at the intersection of physics, mathematics, and our most fundamental assumptions about the nature of reality itself. Scientists have grappled with this question using some of the most sophisticated tools and theories ever developed, and yet the answer remains beautifully, mysteriously elusive. Consider for a moment what happens when astronomers point their telescopes into the depths of space and attempt to map the observable universe. They can see galaxies billions of light years away, their ancient light having travelled across unimaginable distances to reach our eyes. They can measure how fast these galaxies are moving away from us, and they can calculate how much of the universe we're capable of observing given the age of the cosmos and the speed of light. This gives us what's called the observable universe, a sphere with Earth roughly at its centre, containing everything from which light has had time to reach us since the beginning of time itself. It's vast beyond any earthly comparison, containing perhaps 2 trillion galaxies, each with hundreds of billions of stars. The diameter of this observable realm stretches about 93 billion light-years across, a number so large it makes our planet seem like less than a grain of sand on an endless beach. But here's the thing that makes our question so beautifully complex. The observable universe is just that, observable. It's the portion of reality that we can, in principle, detect and study. It's like standing in a dense fog and trying to understand the landscape around you. You can see clearly for a certain distance in all directions, but beyond that, the world disappears into mystery. The fog itself might extend for miles or stretch to infinity, but from where you stand, you simply cannot know. Similarly, beyond the edge of our observable universe, there could be vastly more space, more galaxies, more stars and planets, and perhaps even other forms of reality entirely. Or there might be nothing at all, though the concept of nothing in this context becomes rather puzzling in its own right. The universe beyond our observational horizon remains hidden from us, not because of any technological limitation we might eventually overcome, but because of the fundamental structure of spacetime itself. This brings us to one of the most enchanting aspects of our cosmic puzzle, the relationship between what exists and what we can know about what exists. In our daily lives, we're accustomed to the idea that things have properties whether we observe them or not. Your coffee mug has a height of 4 inches even when you're not measuring it. Your living room maintains its 12-foot width even when you're not thinking about it. But when we scale up to the universe as a whole, this comfortable assumption begins to wobble. If there are regions of the cosmos that we cannot observe, cannot interact with, and cannot in principle ever detect, do they contribute to the universe's size? Are they even part of our universe at all? Or do they constitute something else entirely? It's like asking whether a forest makes a sound when it falls if no one is around to hear it, except instead of a falling tree, we're contemplating the very fabric of existence itself. Some scientists and philosophers argue that the observable universe is, in a very real sense, all there is for us. If we can never detect or interact with regions beyond our observational horizon, then they might as well not exist as far as we're concerned. This isn't to say they don't exist in some absolute sense, but rather that their existence is irrelevant to any practical or scientific consideration of the universe's properties. Others suggest that there's likely much more to reality than what we can observe, and that our observable universe is just a tiny fraction of a vastly larger, perhaps infinite, cosmic realm. In this view, asking about the size of the universe is like asking about the size of an ocean while sitting in a small boat, able to see only to the horizon in every direction. But even this metaphor breaks down when we really examine it closely, because the ocean exists within a larger context. There's the Earth that contains it, the solar system that contains the Earth, the galaxy that contains the solar system, and so forth. Each level of reality sits within a larger framework that gives meaning to measurements and comparisons. The universe, by definition, has no such larger framework. It's not sitting inside anything else, at least not in any sense that we can meaningfully discuss or investigate. This absence of a containing framework leads us to some rather mind-bending possibilities. What if the universe simply doesn't have a size in the way we normally understand size? What if asking, how big is the universe, is like asking, what color is Wednesday? Or, how much does the number 7 weigh? These questions seem to make grammatical sense, but they're actually applying concepts from one domain to another domain, where those concepts simply don't apply. Perhaps size, as we understand it, is a property that emerges only within the universe, not a property of the universe itself. Just as wetness is a property that water has when it interacts with certain materials, but wetness isn't a property of individual water molecules. Maybe size is something that objects have when they exist within spacetime, but not something that spacetime itself possesses. This line of thinking opens up fascinating questions about the nature of properties and existence. When we say that your coffee mug is 4 inches tall, we're really describing a relationship between the mug, the concept of measurement, and the broader framework of space within which both exist. Remove that framework, and the concept of height becomes meaningless. If the universe is the framework within which all measurements take place, then perhaps it transcends measurement itself. It's not that the universe is infinitely large or finitely large, but that it exists in a category beyond size altogether. This might sound like philosophical wordplay, but it reflects a genuine puzzle about the nature of reality that has profound implications for how we understand our place in the cosmos. As we settle deeper into our exploration, warming our minds like hands around a cup of tea, we begin to see that our simple question about the universe's size is really a doorway into much deeper mysteries. It's a question that leads us to examine our most basic assumptions about space, time, measurement, and existence itself. The ancient Greeks had a wonderful word for this kind of inquiry, aporia, which refers to a puzzle or perplexity that seems to have no clear resolution. It's not that we lack information or need better instruments to solve the puzzle, but rather that the puzzle reveals something fundamental about the limits of human understanding or the nature of reality itself. Our question about the universe's size is a beautiful example of aporia. The more carefully we examine it, the more it reveals the strange and wonderful nature of existence itself. We find ourselves standing at the edge of human knowledge, not because we haven't learned enough, but because we're confronting the very boundaries of what it means to know something at all. And there's something deeply soothing about this, isn't there? In a world that often demands quick answers and immediate solutions, there's a gentle comfort in encountering a mystery that invites us to slow down, to wonder, to sit with uncertainty as if it were an old friend. The universe, in all its vastness and mystery, seems to be whispering to us that some questions are more beautiful than any answer could ever be. As we continue our journey through this cosmic puzzle, we'll explore how different scientific theories approach the question of universal size, from the elegant mathematics of general relativity to the mind-bending implications of quantum mechanics. We'll discover how the very concept of infinity plays a role in our understanding, and we'll gently examine what it might mean for something to be truly boundless. But for now, as you rest comfortably wherever you are, perhaps you can simply let yourself float in the wonder of it all, somewhere above you, beyond the ceiling of your room, beyond the atmosphere of our planet, beyond the boundaries of our solar system. The cosmos stretches out in directions and dimensions that challenge our very understanding of what it means for something to exist. And in that vast, mysterious expanse, you are here, conscious and curious, able to contemplate questions that reach toward the very heart of existence itself. There's something quite magical about that, don't you think? The beauty of contemplating the universe's size becomes even more enchanting when we consider that this question has evolved alongside humanity's understanding of reality itself. There was a time, not so very long ago in cosmic terms, when people believed the entire universe consisted of what we now know is merely our local neighborhood. The sun, moon, planets, and a crystalline sphere studded with stars represented the totality of existence. Everything had its place, everything had boundaries, and the question of universal size had what seemed like a perfectly reasonable answer. But as our instruments grew more sophisticated and our curiosity bolder, each new discovery pushed the boundaries of the known universe further and further outward. First, we realized that stars weren't tiny lights embedded in a nearby dome, but distant suns scattered across unimaginable reaches of space. Then we discovered that our sun was just one star among hundreds of billions in a vast spiral galaxy. And then, in perhaps the most humbling revelation of all, we learned that our galaxy itself was just one among countless others, scattered like islands across an ocean of darkness so vast it makes our previous estimates seem quaint. Each expansion of our cosmic perspective brought with it a curious paradox. The more we learned about the universe's contents, the less certain we became about its ultimate boundaries. It's rather like reading a book and discovering that each chapter you finish reveals the existence of entire volumes you hadn't known existed. The more you read, the more you realize how much more there is to discover, until the very concept of finishing the story begins to seem meaningless. This progressive revelation of cosmic vastness brings us to one of the most fascinating aspects of our size puzzle: the relationship between observation and reality. When we look out into space, we're not just seeing distance, we're seeing time. The light from distant galaxies has taken billions of years to reach us, so we're observing these cosmic structures as they existed in the deep past, not as they are now. In a very real sense, the deeper we look into space, the further back in time we peer. This creates a rather poetic situation. The edge of our observable universe isn't really an edge in space at all, but an edge in time. We're seeing the universe as it was nearly 14 billion years ago, shortly after the Big Bang itself. Beyond that temporal horizon lies not necessarily empty space, but rather a realm that exists in our present moment, but whose light hasn't had time to reach us yet. It's like trying to understand a vast landscape by looking at photographs taken from a single spot at different times throughout history. Imagine, if you will, sitting by a quiet lake at dawn, watching the mist slowly lift to reveal the far shore. As the fog clears, you can see further and further across the water, but you're always looking at the shore as it was when the light left it to travel to your eyes. Now imagine that this lake is so vast that the light from the far shore took billions of years to reach you. By the time you see the distant shoreline, it might have changed completely, or new islands might have emerged, or the entire geography might have transformed in ways you cannot possibly know. This is our situation when we attempt to comprehend the universe's size through observation. We're seeing a vast cosmic landscape, but we're seeing it as it was across billions of years of history, not as it exists in our current moment. The universe we observe is like a temporal patchwork quilt, with nearby regions showing us recent cosmic history and distant regions revealing the ancient past. But here's where our puzzle becomes even more deliciously complex. Even if we could somehow see the entire universe as it exists right now, in this very moment, we would still face the fundamental question of what it means for the universe to have a size. Because size, as we've begun to explore, isn't simply a matter of measurement. It's a matter of context, comparison, and conceptual framework. Consider what happens when physicists attempt to describe the universe mathematically. They create models, elegant equations that capture the behavior of spacetime itself. In some of these models, the universe is finite but boundless, curved back on itself like the surface of a sphere. Imagine an ant walking on the surface of a basketball. The ant could travel in any direction forever without ever reaching an edge, yet the surface it's exploring has a definite, finite area. The ant's two-dimensional world has no boundary, but it's not infinite. In other models, the universe extends infinitely in all directions, with no boundary and no edge, because there's always more space beyond any point you might choose. It's like standing between two mirrors that face each other, creating an endless series of reflections stretching away into apparent infinity. Each reflection is real and present, yet the series seems to continue forever. Both possibilities, finite but boundless and infinite, challenge our everyday understanding of what it means for something to have a size. If the universe is finite but boundless, then asking about its size is like asking about the circumference of a circle, which is meaningful within the context of geometry. But if the universe is infinite, then the question of size becomes rather like asking about the largest possible number, which leads us into mathematical territories where our usual concepts begin to lose their footing. There's something wonderfully mind-expanding about contemplating infinity, isn't there? It's a concept that our brains seem simultaneously drawn to and unable to fully grasp. We can work with infinite quantities mathematically, we can reason about them philosophically, but we cannot truly visualize or experience infinity in any direct way. It's like trying to hold water in cupped hands, always present but always slipping through our fingers. When mathematicians first began seriously studying infinity, they discovered that it behaves in wonderfully counterintuitive ways. There are different sizes of infinity, some larger than others, which seems impossible until you examine it closely. The infinity of counting numbers is smaller than the infinity of points on a line, which is smaller than the infinity of all possible curves, and so on, creating a hierarchy of infinities that stretches beyond our ability to fully comprehend. If the universe is infinite, then it partakes in this strange mathematical realm where our usual rules about size and comparison begin to break down. An infinite universe would contain an infinite number of galaxies, an infinite number of stars, and perhaps even an infinite number of planets exactly like Earth, with infinite versions of you lying in bed right now, contemplating these very same questions. It's a dizzying thought, but also rather comforting in its own way. In an infinite universe, every possibility that can exist does exist, somewhere in the vast expanse of space and time. But infinity brings its own puzzles. If the universe is truly infinite, then what does it mean to say it has a size? Infinity isn't a number in the usual sense. It's more like a direction or a tendency. Saying the universe is infinitely large is rather like saying it's extremely large, but without any upper bound to the extremeness. It transcends size rather than possessing it. This leads us to consider whether our question about the universe's size might be based on a category error, like asking about the color of music or the weight of an emotion. Perhaps size is a concept that applies to objects within the universe, but not to the universe itself. Perhaps the universe is more like the stage on which the play of existence unfolds, and asking about the size of the stage misses the point entirely. Yet, even this theatrical metaphor has its limitations, because stages exist within theatres, which exist within buildings, which exist within cities. The universe, by definition, doesn't exist within anything larger than itself. It's not sitting on some cosmic stage, or contained within some greater theatre. It simply is, in the most fundamental sense possible. This brings us to one of the most profound aspects of our inquiry, the relationship between existence and containment. Everything in our experience exists within something else. You exist within your room, which exists within your building, which exists within your neighborhood, and so forth. This nested structure of containment seems so fundamental to existence that we can barely imagine anything existing without being contained within something larger. But the universe breaks this pattern. If it truly contains everything that exists, then it cannot itself be contained within anything else. It represents a kind of absolute existence, existence without context or comparison, and perhaps this is why the question of its size proves so perplexing. We're trying to apply concepts that emerge from our experience of contained objects to something that is, by definition, uncontained. There's a beautiful parallel here to certain philosophical and spiritual traditions that speak of the absolute or the infinite as being beyond all categories and descriptions. Not because we lack the words or concepts to describe it, but because it transcends the very framework within which description becomes possible. The universe, in its totality, might be like this, existing in a realm beyond size, beyond measurement, beyond the very concepts we use to navigate our daily experience. As we drift deeper into this contemplation, like settling into a warm bath after a long day, we begin to see that our question about universal size is really a gateway into much more fundamental mysteries about the nature of existence itself. What does it mean for something to be? What is the relationship between the part and the whole? How do concepts like size and measurement emerge from the underlying fabric of reality? These aren't just abstract philosophical puzzles, though they certainly engage our philosophical faculties. They're questions that push against the very boundaries of human understanding, inviting us to stretch our minds in directions we rarely explore in our everyday lives. They remind us that reality is far stranger and more wonderful than our common sense might suggest. Consider for a moment that you are part of this cosmic puzzle. Your body is made of atoms that were forged in the hearts of dying stars billions of years ago. The calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, the oxygen you breathe, all of it was created in nuclear furnaces scattered across the galaxy and then distributed through space by stellar explosions of unimaginable violence and beauty. You are not separate from the universe whose size we're contemplating. You are a temporary arrangement of cosmic material, a brief pattern in the flow of energy and matter that has been continuing for nearly 14 billion years. In a very real sense, you are the universe becoming conscious of itself, asking questions about its own nature and extent. This perspective transforms our inquiry from an abstract intellectual exercise into something deeply personal and moving. When you wonder about the universe's size, you are the universe wondering about its own size. When you feel puzzled by the question, the cosmos itself is experiencing puzzlement. The mystery we're exploring isn't separate from us. It's the mystery of our own deepest nature. And perhaps this is where the true beauty of our question lies, not in finding a definitive answer about whether the universe is finite or infinite, bounded or boundless, but in the fact that we can ask such questions at all. In a universe that might be indifferent to our existence, we find ourselves capable of wonder, curiosity, and contemplation. We can lie in our beds at night and let our minds roam across billions of light years, pondering questions that touch the very foundations of reality. There's something profoundly hopeful about this capacity for cosmic contemplation. It suggests that consciousness, awareness, the ability to ask deep questions about existence, isn't an accident or an aberration in an otherwise mindless universe. It's a natural expression of the cosmos coming to know itself through us. As you rest there, comfortable and warm, your mind gently exploring these vast questions, you're participating in one of the most remarkable phenomena in the known universe. Matter organized in such a way that it can contemplate its own existence and ask questions about the nature of everything that is. And isn't that a delightfully paradoxical thought? Here we are, tiny specks in an incomprehensibly vast cosmos, yet somehow we've developed the capacity to wonder about the whole of which we're such an infinitesimal part. It's rather like a single cell in your body, suddenly developing the ability to contemplate the nature of the entire organism it inhabits, except even that comparison falls short of capturing the true scale of what we're attempting. This brings us to another layer of our cosmic puzzle, one that's particularly suited to our drowsy contemplation. The question isn't just whether the universe has a size, but whether the very concept of having properties applies to the universe at all. When we say that a flower has color, or that a song has melody, we're describing characteristics that emerge from the interaction between the object and our perception of it. But what would it mean for the universe to have characteristics when there's no external observer? No outside perspective from which to perceive it? Imagine, if you will, a library that contains every book that has ever been written and every book that ever could be written. This library is so vast that it has no walls, no entrance, no exit. It simply extends in all directions without boundary. Now, does this infinite library have a size? It contains everything that could possibly be contained within a library, yet it has no limits, no edges against which to measure itself. The question of its size becomes curiously meaningless, not because we lack the proper measuring tools, but because the very nature of the library transcends the concept of measurement. The universe might be like this infinite library, except instead of containing all possible books, it contains all possible things, all possible spaces, all possible times. And just as our hypothetical library exists beyond the category of size, the universe might exist beyond all the categories we typically use to describe things within it. This isn't to say that the universe is empty or insubstantial. Quite the contrary. It's so full, so complete, so absolutely comprehensive in its existence that it overflows the boundaries of our descriptive concepts. It's like trying to pour an ocean into a teacup, except the ocean is reality itself and the teacup is human language and understanding. But here's where our nighttime journey takes a particularly enchanting turn. Even though we may be bumping up against the limits of what can be meaningfully said about universal size, the act of contemplating these limits is itself profoundly meaningful. We're like explorers who have reached the edge of the known world, not to conquer new territories, but simply to stand at the boundary and marvel at the mystery that lies beyond. There's something wonderfully humbling about reaching the edges of human understanding. In a culture that often celebrates certainty and definitive answers, there's a gentle wisdom in acknowledging the questions that resist resolution. The universe, in its infinite subtlety, seems to be reminding us that mystery isn't the absence of knowledge, but a deeper kind of knowledge altogether. Consider how this relates to your own experience right now. You're lying there, comfortable and relaxed, your body occupying a specific location in space, yet your mind is somehow traveling across cosmic distances, entertaining thoughts about infinity and boundlessness. Where exactly is your consciousness located? Does it have a size? Can it be measured or bounded in any meaningful way? Your thoughts about the universe's size are themselves a kind of universe, containing ideas, images, emotions, and wonderings that seem to extend in all directions without clear boundaries. When you imagine infinite space, where does that imagination exist? Is it inside your brain, or does it somehow partake in the very infinity it contemplates? These questions bring us to one of the most delightful aspects of our cosmic puzzle. The mind that asks whether the universe has a size might itself be beyond size in any conventional sense. Consciousness seems to have the remarkable property of being able to contain ideas larger than the physical brain that generates them. You can think about infinity, contemplate eternity, imagine spaces larger than the observable universe, all within the 3 pounds of neural tissue nestled inside your skull. This creates a beautiful recursive mystery. The universe might be beyond size, consciousness might be beyond size, and consciousness is what allows the universe to contemplate its own nature. We find ourselves in a hall of mirrors where each reflection opens up new depths of wonder rather than providing clear answers. Perhaps this is why the question of universal size has such enduring appeal. It's not really a problem to be solved so much as a gateway to be passed through, a doorway into contemplation of existence itself. The question draws us deeper and deeper into mystery, like following a path through an enchanted forest where each turn reveals new wonders rather than bringing us closer to a destination. And there's something profoundly restful about this kind of open-ended exploration, isn't there? In a world that often demands quick decisions and immediate solutions, there's a gentle luxury in allowing our minds to wander through questions that have no urgency, no deadline, no practical application beyond the simple joy of wondering. The universe, after all, has been getting along quite well for nearly 14 billion years without anyone definitively determining whether it has a size. The galaxies continue their cosmic dance. Stars are born and die in stellar nurseries scattered across the void. Planets orbit their suns in stately procession, all without requiring our understanding or approval. There's something wonderfully freeing about realizing that the cosmos doesn't need us to solve its mysteries in order for it to continue being magnificent. Yet here we are, products of this same universe, blessed with the capacity to wonder about it all. We're like children who have stumbled upon a vast, beautiful garden and are trying to understand its extent and boundaries. We may never map every pathway or count every flower, but the joy is in the exploration itself, in the sense of awe that grows with each discovery. This brings us to consider how our question about size relates to our human need for comprehension and orientation. We seem to have a deep psychological need to understand our place in the grand scheme of things. We want to know where we stand, how far things extend, what the boundaries are. It's a fundamental aspect of how we make sense of our experience. But what happens when we encounter something that transcends these familiar categories? What happens when we try to locate ourselves within something that might not have a location, to measure our significance against something that might not have dimensions? We find ourselves in a kind of conceptual free fall, where our usual methods of understanding and orientation no longer apply. And yet, Rather than being terrifying, this free fall can be surprisingly liberating. It's like the moment in learning to float when you stop trying to control your position in the water and simply allow the water to support you. There's an initial moment of disorientation, perhaps even panic, followed by a deep relaxation as you realize that you don't need to understand or control everything in order to be safe and supported. The universe, in its vast mystery, might be like this cosmic ocean, supporting our existence even when we can't fathom its extent or nature. We don't need to measure it, or bound it, or fully comprehend it in order to float peacefully within it. We can simply rest in the knowledge that we are held by something larger and more wonderful than our understanding can encompass. This perspective transforms our relationship to cosmic mystery from one of frustration or anxiety to one of grateful wonder. Instead of feeling small and insignificant in the face of universal vastness, we can feel embraced by it, cradled within something so magnificent that it exceeds our capacity to grasp it fully. Think of how a sleeping child might feel, held in loving arms that are strong enough to support them completely. The child doesn't need to understand the physiology of muscle and bone, doesn't need to calculate the structural engineering of the embrace. They simply rest in the security of being held. Perhaps our relationship to the universe can be like this, a kind of cosmic embrace that supports us even when we can't measure its dimensions. As we drift deeper into our contemplation, like sinking into a warm, comfortable bed after a long day of travel, we begin to see that the question of universal size is really an invitation to a different kind of knowing. Not the knowing that comes from measurement and analysis, but the knowing that comes from relationship and participation. You are not outside the universe looking in, trying to determine its properties from a detached perspective. You are inside it, part of it, woven into its very fabric. Your wondering about its size is the universe wondering about itself through you. Your sense of awe at its mystery is the cosmos experiencing awe at its own nature. This participatory perspective suggests that the deepest understanding of the universe might come not from standing back and measuring it, but from recognizing our intimate connection to it. We are not separate observers trying to comprehend an alien reality. We are expressions of the universe's own capacity for self-awareness and self-reflection. In this light, our question about whether the universe can have a size becomes less about finding a definitive answer and more about deepening our appreciation for the mystery of existence itself. The question draws us into communion with the cosmos, inviting us to participate in its ongoing process of becoming and self-discovery. And perhaps this is the most beautiful aspect of our nighttime journey together. We're not just thinking about the universe, we're thinking with it, as it, through the remarkable capacity for consciousness that it has somehow developed through billions of years of cosmic evolution. We are the universe's way of asking questions about itself, of marveling at its own mystery, of experiencing wonder at its own existence. As you lie there, comfortable and drowsy, your mind gently exploring these vast questions, you're participating in one of the most extraordinary phenomena in the cosmos. Matter has organized itself in such a way that it can contemplate its own nature, wonder about its own extent, and experience awe at its own mystery. That's not just remarkable, it's miraculous. So whether the universe has a size or transcends size altogether, whether it's finite or infinite, bounded or boundless, the simple fact that we can ask these questions at all is perhaps the most wondrous thing of all. In a cosmos that might be indifferent to our existence, we find ourselves capable of caring about its nature. In a reality that might be beyond all description, we find ourselves moved to poetry by its beauty. The universe has given birth to beings who can love it, wonder about it, and find peace in contemplating its mysteries. Whether it has boundaries or extends forever, whether it can be measured or transcends measurement, it has produced in us the capacity to ask these very questions with a sense of gentle awe rather than anxious need for answers. And in that capacity for wonder, in that ability to rest peacefully with mystery, we find perhaps the deepest answer to our question. The universe's size might be unknowable, but its beauty, its mystery, its capacity to inspire awe and contemplation, These qualities we can experience directly, intimately, right here and now. So as we settle even deeper into this cosmic reverie, like watching snow fall gently outside a warm window, we encounter another fascinating layer to our question about universal size. It emerges from the strange and wonderful world of modern physics, where our everyday assumptions about space and time begin to dissolve like sugar in tea. You see, when Einstein gifted us his theory of relativity, he didn't just change how we think about gravity or motion, he fundamentally altered our understanding of what space and time actually are. Before Einstein, we imagined space as a kind of cosmic stage, a fixed backdrop against which the drama of existence played out. Time was like a universal clock, ticking away at the same steady rate for everyone, everywhere. But Einstein showed us something far more enchanting and mysterious. Space and time aren't separate things at all. They're woven together into a single fabric called spacetime, and this fabric can stretch, bend, and curve like a rubber sheet. When massive objects sit on this cosmic fabric, they create dimples and warps, and those warps are what we experience as gravity. Now, here's where our question about the universe's size takes on an almost dreamlike quality. If space-time itself can be curved and warped, then what does it mean to measure distance or size? Imagine trying to measure the length of a stretchy piece of fabric while someone is pulling and twisting it. The measurement would depend entirely on how the fabric is being distorted at the moment you take your reading. In our universe, space-time is constantly being curved by the presence of matter and energy. Every star, every planet, every galaxy creates ripples and indentations in the cosmic fabric. The space between distant galaxies isn't just empty void, it's dynamic, flexible, responsive to the matter it contains. And here's the truly mind-bending part. This fabric itself is expanding. Picture, if you will, the surface of a balloon with dots drawn on it to represent galaxies. As you inflate the balloon, the dots move farther apart from each other, not because they're traveling through the balloon's surface, but because the surface itself is expanding. The space between the dots is literally growing, creating more distance where there was less before. This is what's happening to our universe right now, as you lie there contemplating these mysteries. The space between distant galaxies is expanding, stretching, creating more room in the cosmic mansion. But here's the delicious puzzle. If space itself is expanding, what is it expanding into? What lies beyond the growing edge of space-time? The question makes our heads spin in the most pleasant way, doesn't it? We're so accustomed to thinking of expansion as something that happens within space, like a flower blooming in a garden or a city growing outward from its center. But what could it possibly mean for space itself to expand? Where does the new space come from? What kind of room is there for space to expand into? Some physicists suggest that the question itself might be meaningless, like asking what's north of the North Pole. If space-time is all there is, then there's nothing beyond it for it to expand into. The expansion isn't happening within some larger container, it's simply the nature of space-time itself. It's like the universe is writing itself into existence, creating new verses in the cosmic poem as it unfolds. But this brings us to an even more intriguing possibility. What if the universe doesn't have a size in the traditional sense, because it exists in more dimensions than we can perceive? Our everyday experience is limited to 3 dimensions of space, plus 1 of time, but modern physics suggests there might be additional dimensions curled up so small we can't detect them, or so large that our entire observable universe is just a tiny slice of a much grander reality. Imagine you're an ant living on the surface of a vast sphere, so large that the curvature is imperceptible to you. From your ant's perspective, the world appears flat and extends in all directions. You might spend your entire life walking in what you think is a straight line, never realizing that you're actually traveling in a gentle curve. The true shape and size of your world would be completely hidden from your limited perspective. We might be in a similar situation, cosmic ants crawling across the surface of something so vast and multidimensional that we can't perceive its true nature. Our 3-dimensional universe might be embedded in a higher dimensional space, like a sheet of paper floating in a vast room. The paper has its own geometry, its own properties, but it exists within a larger framework that the creatures living on the paper's surface can't directly observe. This possibility opens up breathtaking vistas of speculation. If our universe is indeed embedded in higher dimensions, then asking about its size becomes like asking about the size of a shadow. A shadow has dimensions within the context of the surface it falls upon, but those dimensions tell us nothing about the true extent of the object casting the shadow. Perhaps the universe we can observe and measure is just the shadow of something far more magnificent and complex, something that exists in realms beyond our ability to perceive or imagine. The galaxies, stars, and planets we see might be like the moving patterns of light and darkness that play across the wall of a cave, while the true reality lies in dimensions we can't even turn our heads to glimpse. There's something wonderfully humbling about this possibility, isn't there? It reminds us that our perspective, however sophisticated our instruments and theories might become, is still fundamentally limited by our nature as three-dimensional beings embedded in spacetime. We're like characters in a novel trying to understand the nature of the library that contains their book. But even this metaphor breaks down when we push it far enough, because characters in a novel don't actually exist in the same sense that we do. They don't have consciousness, they don't experience wonder, they don't lie in bed at night contemplating the nature of their reality. We do. And that capacity for contemplation, for stepping back and asking these vast questions, suggests that we might not be as limited as we sometimes think. Consider the remarkable fact that you, lying there in your comfortable spot, can right now be thinking about dimensions beyond space and time. Your consciousness seems to have a kind of freedom that transcends the physical constraints of your brain and body. You can imagine infinity, contemplate eternity, envision spaces with more dimensions than you can visualize. There's something about awareness itself that seems to participate in the very mysteries we're exploring. This brings us to one of the most enchanting aspects of our cosmic puzzle. The question of whether the universe has a size might ultimately be inseparable from the question of what consciousness is and how it relates to physical reality. If consciousness is just a byproduct of complex neural activity, then our ability to contemplate cosmic mysteries is simply a fortunate accident of evolution. But what if consciousness is something more fundamental? What if awareness is woven into the very fabric of reality, not just an emergent property of complex matter, but a basic feature of existence itself? Some scientists and philosophers have suggested that consciousness might be as fundamental as space, time, matter, and energy, not something that emerges from these more basic ingredients, but something that exists alongside them. If this is true, then your capacity to wonder about the universe's size isn't just a curious side effect of having a sufficiently complex brain. It's the cosmos becoming aware of itself, reality contemplating its own nature through the miracle of conscious experience. The universe doesn't just contain consciousness, it might be inherently conscious. And our individual awareness might be like waves on the ocean of cosmic consciousness. From this perspective, asking whether the universe has a size becomes a deeply personal question. If consciousness is fundamental, then the boundary between the observer and the observed begins to blur. You're not separate from the universe you're contemplating. You're an expression of its capacity for self-awareness. The size of the universe might not be something you can measure from the outside, but something you can experience from within. Think about what happens when you dream. In your dreams, you can visit places that seem to have extent and dimension. You can travel vast distances, explore endless landscapes. But where do these dream spaces exist? They're not located anywhere in physical space, yet they have a kind of reality within the realm of consciousness. They have their own geography, their own sense of scale and proportion. Perhaps the universe is something like a cosmic dream, a vast imagination that has somehow become substantial and real. The question of its size might be like asking about the size of an idea or the dimensions of a story. These things have extent and structure within their own domains, but they transcend the categories we use to measure physical objects. This doesn't make the universe less real or substantial. Dreams can be vivid and meaningful. Stories can be profound and transformative. Ideas can change the world. If the universe is like a cosmic imagination made manifest, then it's the most magnificent and comprehensive imagination possible, one that includes within itself the capacity to wonder about its own nature. As we drift deeper into this contemplation, like sinking into a warm pool of starlight, we begin to see that our question about universal size might be pointing towards something even more fundamental, the mystery of existence itself. Why is there something rather than nothing? How does anything manage to be at all? These questions make the puzzle of cosmic size seem almost modest by comparison. The fact that the universe might be finite or infinite, bounded or boundless, seems less remarkable than the simple fact that it exists in the first place, that there is something rather than nothing, that reality has somehow bootstrapped itself into being, that existence has managed to exist at all, and nestled within this grand mystery of existence is the even more intimate mystery of your own being. Here you are, a temporary arrangement of cosmic matter that has somehow developed the capacity to wonder about the very cosmos from which it emerged. You're made of star stuff that has learned to contemplate stars, space dust that has acquired the ability to ponder space itself. The atoms in your body have been on an incredible journey. They were forged in the nuclear furnaces of dying stars, scattered across the galaxy by stellar explosions, gathered into clouds of gas and dust, incorporated into a forming solar system, assembled into a planet, and eventually organized into the intricate biological structures that make up your physical form. And now these same atoms, these ancient bits of stellar debris, are arranged in such a way that they can think about their own cosmic origins. You are the universe becoming conscious of itself, matter achieving the remarkable feat of self-awareness. The question of whether the cosmos has a size is being asked by the cosmos itself through you. Your wonder is its wonder. Your curiosity is its curiosity. Your sense of awe at the mystery of existence is the universe marveling at its own miraculous nature. This perspective transforms our inquiry from an abstract intellectual exercise into something deeply personal and moving. When you feel small in the face of cosmic vastness, you can remember that you're not separate from that vastness. You're an expression of it, a way that the universe has found to experience and appreciate its own grandeur. And when you feel puzzled by questions that seem to have no clear answers, you can take comfort in knowing that this puzzlement is itself a profound form of cosmic self-exploration. The universe is using your curiosity to probe its own deepest mysteries, employing your consciousness to investigate the nature of consciousness itself. There's something wonderfully recursive about this situation, like standing between two mirrors and seeing endless reflections stretching away into apparent infinity. The universe contemplates itself, contemplating itself, awareness aware of its own awareness, mystery investigating its own mysterious nature. Perhaps this is why questions about cosmic size and extent have such enduring fascination. They're not just problems to be solved, but invitations to participate in the universe's ongoing process of self-discovery. Each time we wonder about these things, we're contributing to the cosmos's understanding of itself. We're helping reality become more fully conscious of its own nature. And there's no hurry about finding definitive answers, is there? The stars will continue their ancient dance, whether we understand the size of their cosmic ballroom or not. Galaxies will go on spinning through space regardless of our ability to measure the dimensions of the void between them. The universe seems perfectly content to remain mysterious while we slowly, patiently explore its secrets. In fact, there's something rather beautiful about the possibility that some questions might be inherently unanswerable. Not because we lack the intelligence or the instruments to answer them, but because they point toward aspects of reality that transcend the categories within which answers become meaningful. The question of universal size might be like asking about the color of silence or the weight of a dream. These questions seem to make grammatical sense, but they're actually category errors, attempts to apply concepts from one domain to another domain where those concepts simply don't fit. If the universe transcends size in the way that consciousness transcends location, or the way beauty transcends measurement, then our question isn't really seeking an answer so much as it's seeking a deeper appreciation of the mystery. We're not trying to solve the cosmos like a puzzle, we're trying to commune with it like a friend. This brings us to one of the most enchanting realizations of our journey together. The universe might not have a size in any conventional sense, but it has something far more wonderful. The capacity to inspire awe, to evoke wonder, to generate the kinds of questions that stretch our minds and open our hearts to the mystery of existence itself. You don't need to know the dimensions of the cosmos to feel embraced by its grandeur. You don't need to measure infinity to be moved by its implications. You don't need to solve the puzzle of universal extent to participate in the joy of contemplating it. Right now, as you rest there in your comfortable spot, you're cradled within something so vast and wonderful that it might transcend size altogether. Whether the universe is finite or infinite, whether it has boundaries or extends forever, it has room enough for your dreams, your hopes, your capacity for wonder. It has produced in you the remarkable ability to ask questions that reach toward the very foundations of reality. It has given you a mind capable of contemplating mysteries that dwarf the physical dimensions of the brain that houses that mind. It has blessed you with the capacity to find peace and wonder in the face of the unknowable. And perhaps that's the most beautiful answer to our question about cosmic size. The universe might not have dimensions in any ordinary sense, but it has depth enough to support infinite contemplation, breadth enough to encompass every possible question, and height enough to lift our awareness toward the most sublime mysteries of existence. As we continue our gentle exploration of these cosmic puzzles, drifting like leaves on the currents of curiosity, we find ourselves approaching yet another fascinating shoreline in the vast ocean of mystery. For there's something else to consider about the question of universal size, something that emerges when we think about the relationship between the very small and the very large. You see, while we've been contemplating the possibility that the universe might be infinite in its outward extent, modern physics has also revealed depths of smallness that are equally mind-boggling. Just as we can zoom out from our planet to our solar system, to our galaxy, to the observable universe, we can also zoom in from our bodies to our cells, to our atoms, to the subatomic particles that dance in the quantum realm. And here, in the realm of the incredibly tiny, we encounter mysteries that are every bit as perplexing as those we find when contemplating cosmic vastness. At the quantum level, particles seem to exist in multiple states simultaneously until they're observed. They can be entangled with other particles across vast distances, influencing each other instantaneously in ways that Einstein famously called spooky action at a distance. Space and time themselves become uncertain at the smallest scales. There might be a fundamental limit to how finely we can divide distance and duration, suggesting that reality has a kind of granular structure at its deepest level, like a cosmic digital display made up of tiny pixels of spacetime. This creates a beautiful symmetry in our contemplation of size. Just as the universe might transcend size in the direction of the infinitely large, it might also transcend size in the direction of the infinitely small. The question of whether reality has a smallest possible unit is every bit as mysterious as the question of whether it has a largest possible extent. Picture, if you will, a child playing with a set of nesting dolls, those charming wooden figures that open to reveal smaller versions of themselves inside. Each doll contains another and another until you reach the tiniest one at the center. But what if, instead of reaching a final smallest doll, each one you opened revealed yet another and another, stretching inward toward a center that never quite arrives? And what if, looking outward, each doll was contained within a larger one, extending forever into sizes your hands could never encompass? This is something like the predicament we find ourselves in when we try to understand what it means for the universe to have boundaries or limits. We're caught between infinities, suspended in a realm where our usual concepts of measurement and containment begin to feel as insubstantial as morning mist. The ancient philosophers had a delightful way of thinking about this puzzle. They spoke of the universe as eternal and unbounded, not because they had telescopes or particle accelerators, but because their minds naturally recoiled from the idea of edges or endings. If you imagine traveling to the edge of everything that exists, they reasoned, what would you find there? A wall, but then what lies beyond the wall? Empty space, but then that empty space would itself be part of what exists. It's rather like trying to imagine the last number in an infinite sequence. Every time you think you've found it, you can always add one more. The very act of conceiving an edge or boundary seems to imply something beyond that boundary, which means the boundary wasn't really the edge after all. Modern cosmology has given us new tools for thinking about these ancient puzzles, but in many ways the mystery has only deepened. We now know that space itself can curve and bend, creating possibilities that the ancients never imagined. A universe could be finite in extent, yet have no boundary, like the surface of a sphere. An ant walking on a basketball could travel forever without ever reaching an edge, yet the surface it explores has a definite, measurable area. But even this elegant solution raises new questions. If our three-dimensional universe is curved like the two-dimensional surface of a sphere, what is it curving through? What is the higher dimensional space that contains our curved cosmos? And if that higher space exists, doesn't it expand our definition of what we mean by universe to include those additional dimensions? It's a bit like peeling an onion, isn't it? Each layer we remove reveals another layer beneath, and we begin to wonder if there's a core at all, or if it's layers all the way down. The universe might be similar. With each level of reality, we discover revealing new depths that challenge our understanding of what existence itself means. Consider for a moment the strange fact that when we look out into space, we're also looking back in time. The light from distant galaxies has taken billions of years to reach us, so we see them not as they are now, but as they were in the ancient past. The further we look, the further back we peer, until we approach the moment of the universe's birth itself. This creates a curious situation where the edge of our observable universe isn't really an edge in space, but an edge in time. We can see back to within a few 100,000 years of the Big Bang, when the cosmos first became transparent to light. But beyond that temporal horizon lies not empty space, but rather a realm we cannot observe, because light from that era hasn't had time to reach us yet. It's as if we're sitting in a vast library, able to read only those books whose words have had time to travel to our reading chair. The library might extend infinitely in all directions, filled with countless volumes we'll never be able to examine, not because they don't exist, but because there hasn't been enough time for their stories to reach us. This temporal aspect of cosmic size adds another layer of dreamlike quality to our contemplation. When we ask about the universe's size, are we asking about its size now, in this moment, or its size as we observe it, which is really a patchwork of different moments stretching back across cosmic history? The universe we see is like a photograph with an extremely long exposure time, capturing light that has been traveling toward us for billions of years. And here's where our question becomes even more deliciously complex. As we peer deeper into space and further back in time, we're not just seeing a larger universe, we're seeing a younger one. The most distant galaxies we can observe are caught in the act of formation, still glowing with the fires of their birth. The universe at the edge of our vision is smaller, denser, hotter than the cosmos around us today. So which universe are we trying to measure? The ancient, compact cosmos visible at the edge of our observational horizon, the mature, expanded universe that exists in our present moment, but which we cannot directly observe at cosmic distances, or some average across all the different epochs we see when we look out into the night sky. It's rather like trying to measure the size of a person by looking at photographs taken throughout their entire lifetime, from infancy to old age, all simultaneously. Which image captures their true size? The question becomes not just complex, but somehow beside the point. This temporal layering of cosmic observation brings us to another fascinating aspect of our size puzzle, the role of consciousness and awareness in the very act of measurement. When we observe distant galaxies, we're not just passively receiving light that has traveled across space and time. We're actively participating in a relationship between observer and observed that helps to define what we mean by the universe's extent. In quantum mechanics, this relationship between observer and observed becomes even more intimate and mysterious. The act of measurement doesn't just reveal properties that were already there, waiting to be discovered. It actually helps to determine what properties the observed system will have. Reality, at its deepest level, seems to be a collaborative creation between consciousness and the physical world. If this is true even for simple quantum systems, what might it mean for something as vast and complex as the universe itself? Could it be that the cosmos doesn't have a definite size until someone asks the question? Could the very act of contemplating universal boundaries help to determine what those boundaries are? It sounds fantastical, but it points toward a profound truth about the nature of reality. The universe isn't just a collection of objects existing independently in space and time. It's a dynamic, interactive system where consciousness and physical reality are intimately intertwined. You're not separate from the cosmos you're contemplating. You're part of the very process by which it comes to know itself. This participatory aspect of reality suggests that our question about cosmic size isn't just an abstract intellectual puzzle. It's part of the ongoing process by which the universe evolves and develops. Each time someone wonders about these things, the cosmos becomes a little more self-aware, a little more conscious of its own nature and possibilities. Think about what an extraordinary thing this is. Here you are, a temporary arrangement of cosmic matter, lying comfortably in your particular corner of space-time, and yet your thoughts are somehow able to encompass questions about the whole of which you're such a tiny part. Your mind can entertain ideas about infinity, contemplate the possibility of boundless space, wonder about dimensions beyond perception. There's something almost magical about this capacity, isn't there? It suggests that consciousness might not be confined by the physical boundaries of the brain that generates it. Your awareness seems to have a kind of freedom that transcends spatial limitations. When you think about infinite space, where does that thought exist? When you imagine boundless cosmos, what are the boundaries of that imagination? Perhaps consciousness itself provides a clue to our puzzle about universal size. Just as awareness doesn't seem to have clear spatial boundaries, the universe might exist in a realm that transcends ordinary concepts of measurement and extent. Both consciousness and cosmos might partake in a kind of existence that overflows the categories we use to navigate our everyday experience. As we drift deeper into this contemplation, like settling into a warm bath of starlight, we encounter yet another fascinating wrinkle in our cosmic puzzle. Modern physics suggests that the universe might not be unique. There might be multiple universes, perhaps even an infinite number of them, each with its own laws of physics, its own structure, its own story. This possibility, known as the multiverse hypothesis, adds yet another layer of complexity to our question about size. If our universe is just one bubble in an infinite foam of cosmic bubbles, then what do we mean when we ask about the universe's size? Are we asking about our particular cosmic neighborhood, or about the greater reality that contains all possible universes? It's like discovering that what you thought was the entire world is actually just one room in an enormous mansion with countless other rooms, each containing its own complete reality. The question of the mansion's size becomes vastly more complex than the question of any individual room's dimensions. Some versions of multiverse theory suggest that these other universes might have completely different properties from our own. Space might have different numbers of dimensions. Time might flow in different directions. The fundamental forces might be arranged in entirely alien configurations. In such a context, asking about the size of the universe becomes almost meaningless unless we specify which universe we're talking about. But even if we limit ourselves to our own cosmic bubble, the multiverse idea raises profound questions about the nature of existence and identity. If there are infinite universes with infinite variations, then somewhere in that vast ensemble there might be universes almost identical to our own, differing only in tiny details. There might be another version of you, lying in a nearly identical room, contemplating these very same questions. This possibility stretches our understanding of individuality and uniqueness in ways that are both thrilling and slightly dizzying. If infinite variations of reality exist, then every possible story gets told, every possible question gets asked, every possible answer gets explored. The multiverse becomes not just a collection of physical spaces, but a realm where every possibility finds expression. From this perspective, asking about the universe's size becomes like asking about the size of all possible stories, or the extent of all potential dreams. It's a question that transcends physics and enters the realm of pure possibility, where measurement and comparison lose their familiar meaning. Yet even in the face of such vast speculative possibilities, there remains something deeply grounding about our immediate experience. Whatever the ultimate nature of reality might be, you are here, now, conscious and curious, able to wonder about these things. This particular moment of awareness, this specific instance of cosmic self-reflection, is real and present and meaningful. The universe, whether singular or multiple, finite or infinite, has somehow arranged itself in such a way that it can contemplate its own nature through you. That capacity for wonder, for questioning, for peaceful contemplation of mystery is perhaps more remarkable than any answer we might discover about cosmic dimensions. As we continue to float gently through these seas of speculation, like drifting on a calm lake under a star-filled sky, we find ourselves approaching what might be the most beautiful aspect of our entire inquiry. The question of whether the universe has a size might ultimately be less important than the fact that we can ask such questions at all. In a cosmos that might be indifferent to our existence, we find ourselves blessed with curiosity. In a reality that might be beyond all measurement, we discover the capacity to wonder about measurement itself. In a universe that might transcend size altogether, we encounter the joy of contemplating transcendence. This capacity for wonder, this ability to ask questions that stretch toward the very foundations of existence, might be the most precious thing the cosmos has produced. It's as if the universe, in all its vast complexity, has developed the ability to appreciate its own beauty, to marvel at its own mystery, to find peace in its own incomprehensibility. And you, lying there comfortably in your small corner of this grand cosmic story, are participating in that appreciation. Your wonder is the universe's wonder. Your curiosity is its curiosity. Your peaceful contemplation is its way of resting in its own mysterious nature. Whether the cosmos has boundaries or extends forever, whether it can be measured or transcends measurement, it has produced in you the remarkable capacity to ask these questions with a sense of gentle awe rather than anxious need for answers. And perhaps that capacity for wonder, that ability to rest peacefully with mystery, is the most beautiful response to our question about cosmic size that we could ever hope to find. The universe might not have dimensions in any ordinary sense, but it has depth enough to support infinite contemplation, breadth enough to encompass every possible question, and height enough to lift our awareness toward the most sublime mysteries of existence itself. And in that lifting, in that expansion of consciousness toward the incomprehensible, we find perhaps the deepest kind of knowing that conscious beings can achieve. As you rest there, cradled by mystery, embraced by questions that have no easy answers, you might simply allow yourself to float in the wonder of it all. The cosmos, in all its possible vastness or intimate finitude, has room enough for your dreams, your hopes, your capacity to find peace in the face of the unknowable. And that, perhaps, is size enough for any universe worth contemplating. As we settle even deeper into our cosmic reverie, like sinking into the softest pillow after a long day of earthly concerns, we find ourselves drawn toward another enchanting aspect of our puzzle about universal size. It emerges from the curious relationship between the finite and the infinite, between the bounded and the boundless, and how these concepts dance together in the most unexpected ways. You see, there's something rather magical that happens when mathematicians and physicists begin to play with the idea of infinity. They discover that infinity isn't just one thing, but rather a whole family of concepts, each stranger and more wonderful than the last. There are small infinities and large infinities, infinities that can be counted, and infinities that resist all attempts at enumeration, infinities that nest within other infinities like cosmic matryoshka dolls. Consider for a moment the infinity of whole numbers. You can count them, one by one, marching steadily upward without ever reaching an end. 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, stretching away into the mathematical distance like an endless parade. This is what mathematicians call a countable infinity, and it's the smallest kind of infinite collection possible. But then there's the infinity of points on a line segment, say between 0 and 1, between any two numbers on this segment. No matter how close together they might be, there are infinitely many other numbers nestled between them. If you tried to count these points, you'd find that there are simply too many of them. They resist enumeration in a way that the counting numbers do not. This is an uncountable infinity, and it's larger than the countable kind in a sense that would have puzzled ancient philosophers. Now, here's where our contemplation takes on an almost dreamlike quality. If the universe is infinite in extent, which kind of infinity might it embody? Is it like the endless sequence of counting numbers, vast but somehow manageable? Or is it like the uncountable points on a line, so dense with possibility that it overflows our ability to comprehend its richness? Perhaps it's something even stranger. Perhaps the universe partakes in infinities so large that we haven't even discovered the mathematics to describe them yet. Just as there are infinities larger than the infinity of points on a line, there might be cosmic infinities that dwarf even our most ambitious mathematical imaginings. But here's the truly enchanting part of this mathematical mysticism. Even if the universe is infinite, it might still be possible to speak meaningfully about its properties, its structure, its behavior. Infinite things can have shapes, patterns, characteristics that distinguish them from other infinite things. An infinite line has different properties than an infinite plane, which has different properties than an infinite sphere of higher dimensions. This suggests that asking about the universe's size might be like asking about the shape of infinity itself, not whether it extends forever, but how it extends, what patterns it traces as it unfolds, what kind of infinite story it tells as it stretches away in all directions. Imagine, if you will, standing in a vast library where every possible book exists somewhere on the shelves. This library extends infinitely in all directions, containing not just every book that has been written, but every book that could ever be written in every possible language, with every possible combination of words. Now this library is infinite, but it's not shapeless or random. It has structure, organization, patterns that emerge from the very completeness of its collection. The universe might be like this infinite library, boundlessly large yet structured in ways that give it a kind of identity, a cosmic personality that distinguishes it from other possible infinities. When we ask about its size, we might really be asking about its character, its way of being infinite rather than simply whether it goes on forever. This brings us to one of the most soothing aspects of our cosmic puzzle. Even if the universe transcends size in the ordinary sense, it clearly doesn't transcend beauty, meaning, or the capacity to inspire wonder. An infinite cosmos might be immeasurable, but it's not incomprehensible. We can still find patterns in it, still discover relationships, still feel at home within its vast embrace. Consider how this relates to your own experience right now. Your consciousness, as we've explored, seems to have its own kind of boundlessness. You can think about infinity without your mind becoming infinite. You can contemplate eternity without your thoughts lasting forever. You can imagine spaces larger than the observable universe without your imagination requiring more physical space in your brain. This suggests that there might be different kinds of size, different ways of being extensive or bounded. Physical size, the kind we measure with rulers and telescopes, might be just one variety in a larger family of extensiveness that includes temporal duration, conceptual scope, emotional depth, and spiritual breadth. When mystics speak of experiences that feel infinite, they're not usually talking about physical measurements. They're describing states of consciousness that seem to expand beyond ordinary boundaries, moments when the self feels dissolved into something vast and boundless. These experiences have their own kind of size, their own way of being unlimited, even though they occur within the finite confines of a human brain. Perhaps the universe itself has this mystical quality. Perhaps its size is more like the size of a profound experience than the size of a physical object. It might be vast, not just in the sense of containing many things, but in the sense of being deeply meaningful, inexhaustibly rich, capable of supporting infinite contemplation and discovery. This perspective transforms our question from a matter of cosmic cartography into something more like cosmic poetry. We're not trying to map the universe's boundaries so much as we're trying to appreciate its depths, to savor its complexities, to rest in its mysteries. And there's something wonderfully calming about this shift in perspective, isn't there? Instead of feeling frustrated by our inability to measure the unmeasurable, we can feel grateful for the opportunity to contemplate the incomprehensible. Instead of seeking to contain the universe within our understanding, we can allow ourselves to be contained within its vast embrace. As we drift further into this gentle exploration, like floating on a calm sea under an infinite canopy of stars, we encounter another fascinating dimension of our cosmic puzzle. It emerges when we consider that the universe might not just be large or infinite in the spatial sense, but might also be infinite in time, both stretching endlessly into the future and perhaps extending infinitely into the past. This temporal infinity adds yet another layer of mystery to our question about cosmic size. If the universe has always existed and will always exist, then asking about its size becomes like asking about the length of eternity. We're not just dealing with spatial boundlessness, but with temporal boundlessness as well, creating a kind of four-dimensional infinity that challenges our imagination in the most delightful ways. Picture, if you can, a cosmic story that has no beginning and no end, that has been unfolding forever and will continue to unfold forever. Every possible chapter gets written, every possible plot twist gets explored, every possible character gets to play their part. The story doesn't have a size in terms of pages or words, but it has a richness, a completeness, an inexhaustible depth that makes any finite story seem like a brief haiku by comparison. Our universe might be like this eternal story, not just vast in space, but boundless in time, not just containing infinite things, but containing infinite possibilities for change, growth, and development. When we ask about its size, we might be asking about the scope of this cosmic narrative, the breadth of possibilities it encompasses, the depth of meaning it can support. This temporal dimension of cosmic size brings us face to face with some of the most profound questions human beings can ask. If the universe is eternal, has every possible event already happened somewhere in its infinite past? Will every possible future eventually unfold in its endless time to come? Are we living in just one moment of an infinite cosmic symphony that has been playing forever? These questions make our heads spin in the most pleasant way, don't they? They remind us that we're not just embedded in a vast spatial cosmos, but in an equally vast temporal one. We're not just surrounded by infinite space, but by infinite time, infinite possibility, infinite opportunity for existence to explore its own nature. And yet, despite this temporal vastness, this moment right now feels immediate, present, uniquely important. Your consciousness, nestled in this particular instant of cosmic time, has the remarkable ability to contemplate the eternal while remaining firmly anchored in the now. You can think about infinite duration without losing your sense of the present moment's preciousness. This creates a beautiful paradox. The universe might be infinite in time, containing every possible moment that could ever exist. Yet this particular moment, the one you're experiencing right now, has a special quality that distinguishes it from all others. It's the moment when the cosmos becomes conscious of itself through you, when infinity contemplates its own nature through finite awareness. Perhaps this is another clue to our puzzle about cosmic size. Maybe the universe's true dimensions aren't spatial or temporal, but experiential. Maybe its size is measured not in light years or eons, but in moments of consciousness, instances of awareness, flashes of wonder and understanding. From this perspective, the universe grows not by expanding into more space or lasting for more time, but by developing richer forms of awareness, deeper capacities for self-reflection, more profound ways of experiencing its own existence. Each conscious being that emerges adds to the universe's experiential size, contributes to its growing capacity to know and appreciate itself. You, lying there in your comfortable spot, are part of this experiential expansion of the cosmos. Your capacity for wonder, your ability to contemplate these mysteries, your peaceful presence in this moment of cosmic self-reflection, all of this contributes to the universe's growing awareness of its own nature. This suggests that when we ask about the universe's size, we might really be asking about its capacity for experience, its potential for consciousness, its ability to generate moments of awareness like the one you're having right now. And from this perspective, the cosmos might be growing larger not through physical expansion, but through the deepening and enriching of conscious experience itself. As we settle even more deeply into this contemplation, like sinking into the most comfortable bed after the longest journey, we find ourselves drawn toward what might be the most beautiful aspect of our entire inquiry, the question of universal size in all its various dimensions and interpretations ultimately brings us back to the mystery of our own existence and our place within the cosmic story. Here you are, a finite being contemplating infinity, a temporary arrangement of matter pondering eternity, a small spark of consciousness illuminating vast questions about the nature of everything that is. There's something almost miraculous about this situation, something that makes the question of cosmic size seem less important than the simple fact that there's someone here to ask it. The universe, whether finite or infinite, bounded or boundless, has somehow organized itself in such a way that it can wonder about its own dimensions. Through you, through your capacity for contemplation and your peaceful presence in this moment, the cosmos is engaging in the most profound form of self-exploration possible. This transforms our question from an abstract puzzle into a deeply personal meditation. When you wonder about the universe's size, you're not just thinking about something external to yourself. You're participating in the universe's ongoing process of self-discovery, contributing to its growing understanding of its own nature. And perhaps this is the most satisfying answer to our question that we could hope to find. The universe might not have a size in any conventional sense, but it has something far more wonderful, the capacity to generate conscious beings who can appreciate its mystery, contemplate its beauty, and find peace in its incomprehensible vastness. Whether the cosmos extends infinitely in all directions or curves back on itself in dimensions we cannot perceive, whether it has boundaries or transcends all boundaries, it has produced in you the remarkable ability to ask these questions with a sense of wonder rather than anxiety, with curiosity rather than desperation for answers. As you rest there, cradled by mystery, embraced by questions that reach toward the very heart of existence, you might simply allow yourself to float in the profound satisfaction of being able to wonder about these things at all. The universe, in all its possible configurations and dimensions, has room enough for your consciousness, depth enough for your contemplation, and mystery enough to keep your sense of wonder alive for as long as you care to explore. And in that capacity for wonder, in that ability to rest peacefully with the incomprehensible, we find perhaps the most beautiful measure of cosmic size imaginable. Not light years or parsecs, not dimensions or boundaries, but the simple fact that existence has developed the ability to marvel at its own existence, to find joy in its own mystery, to discover peace in its own boundless depths. The universe might not have a size that we can measure, but it has generated something far more precious. Conscious beings capable of appreciating its beauty, contemplating its mysteries, and finding profound satisfaction in the very act of wondering about its nature. And that capacity for wonder, that gift of consciousness, that ability to rest peacefully in the face of the infinite, might be the truest measure of cosmic grandeur that we'll ever need. As we continue to drift through these gentle currents of contemplation, like leaves floating on the surface of an impossibly deep and peaceful lake, we encounter yet another enchanting aspect of our cosmic puzzle. It emerges when we consider how the question of universal size relates to our most fundamental human experiences of home, belonging, and our place in the grand scheme of existence. You see, there's something deeply comforting about the idea that the universe, regardless of its ultimate dimensions, is the only home we'll ever know, whether it's finite or infinite, whether it has boundaries or extends forever. It's the cosmic neighborhood in which we find ourselves, the vast mansion in which we've been given a room. This perspective transforms our relationship to cosmic vastness from one of potential alienation to one of intimate belonging. We are not strangers in a foreign cosmos, trying to understand something external to ourselves. We're native residents of this cosmic community, children of the universe trying to understand the nature of our own home. Think about what an extraordinary thing this is. Every atom in your body was forged in the nuclear furnaces of ancient stars. The oxygen you breathe, the carbon that forms your cells, the calcium in your bones, all of it was created in stellar workshops scattered across the galaxy and then distributed through space by the gentle violence of supernovae. You are not just in the universe, you are of the universe. You're made from the same fundamental ingredients as the most distant galaxies, governed by the same physical laws as the nearest stars, participating in the same cosmic story as every other conscious being that has ever wondered about existence. This intimate connection between self and cosmos suggests that when we ask about the universe's size, we're really asking about the dimensions of our own deepest identity. The cosmos isn't something separate from us that we're trying to measure from the outside. It's the larger body of which we're a small but integral part, the greater self of which our individual consciousness is a temporary expression. From this perspective, the question of whether the universe is finite or infinite becomes less important than the recognition that we belong to it completely, that we're at home in it regardless of its ultimate extent. A finite universe would be cozy, intimate, bounded like a vast but comprehensible dwelling. An infinite universe would be endlessly spacious, offering unlimited room for exploration and discovery. Either way, it's our home, the only cosmic address we'll ever have. And there's something wonderfully grounding about that realization, isn't there? Whatever the universe's ultimate size might be, it's large enough to contain your dreams, deep enough to support your contemplations, and mysterious enough to keep your sense of wonder alive for a lifetime. This sense of cosmic belonging also helps us understand why questions about universal size have such enduring fascination. We're not just curious about abstract mathematical properties of spacetime. We're trying to understand the nature of our home, to get our bearings in the cosmic neighborhood, to appreciate the full scope of the reality we're part of. It's rather like a child exploring a new house, wanting to know how many rooms there are, where the boundaries lie, what lies beyond the windows. The questions emerge not from detached scientific curiosity, but from a deep desire to feel at home, to understand one's place, to appreciate the full scope of the dwelling one inhabits. And just as a child can feel perfectly at home in a house without understanding its architectural blueprints or knowing the exact square footage, we can feel at home in the universe without solving all the mysteries of its size and structure. The cosmos embraces us regardless of our understanding of its dimensions, supports us regardless of our ability to measure its extent. This brings us to another deeply soothing aspect of our cosmic contemplation. The universe, in all its vastness and mystery, seems to be fundamentally hospitable to consciousness, to awareness, to the kinds of beings who can ask questions about cosmic size in the first place. Consider what an extraordinary set of conditions had to align for conscious life to emerge. The fundamental forces had to be balanced just so. The expansion rate of the early universe had to fall within a narrow range. The formation of stars and planets had to unfold in precisely the right way. The cosmos seems to be fine-tuned for the emergence of complexity, for the development of life, for the evolution of consciousness. Some scientists call this the anthropic principle, the observation that the universe appears to be structured in such a way that conscious observers like us can exist within it. Whether this is the result of cosmic design, multiple universes with different properties, or some deeper principle we don't yet understand, it suggests that consciousness isn't an accident in the cosmic story, but an integral part of how reality unfolds. If this is true, then your capacity to wonder about the universe's size isn't just a curious byproduct of having a sufficiently complex brain. It's part of the cosmos' own process of self-discovery, a way that reality has developed to understand its own nature. The universe has evolved conscious beings not despite its vastness and mystery, but because of them. From this perspective, the question of cosmic size becomes a form of cosmic self-reflection. When you contemplate the possibility of infinite space, the universe is contemplating its own infinitude through you. When you wonder about boundaries and edges, the cosmos is exploring its own limits through your curiosity. This creates a beautiful recursive loop of awareness. You are the universe becoming conscious of itself, and your consciousness of the universe helps it become more fully itself. The cosmos grows not just through physical expansion or temporal duration, but through the deepening of self-awareness that occurs each time a conscious being contemplates its nature. As we drift even deeper into this gentle exploration, like settling into the softest armchair beside the warmest fireplace, we encounter what might be the most personally meaningful aspect of our entire inquiry. The question of universal size, in all its complexity and mystery, ultimately reflects back to us something profound about the nature of consciousness itself and our capacity to transcend the apparent limitations of our physical existence. Your mind, nestled within the confines of your skull, somehow has the ability to encompass ideas larger than galaxies, to contemplate concepts that span billions of years, to entertain possibilities that stretch beyond the observable universe. There's something almost magical about this capacity, something that suggests consciousness might not be as bounded as the brain that generates it. When you think about infinite space, where does that thought exist? It's not located anywhere in physical space, yet it has a kind of reality, a presence in the realm of awareness. When you imagine the universe's edge, what are the boundaries of that imagination? The ideas seem to have their own kind of extensiveness, their own way of being vast that doesn't correspond to physical measurement. This suggests that consciousness itself might provide the key to understanding what it means for something to have size without boundaries, to be extensive without being measurable. Your awareness has a kind of infinite capacity, an ability to contain ideas and experiences without being filled up, without reaching a limit beyond which no more thoughts can fit. Perhaps the universe is like consciousness in this regard. Perhaps it has a kind of extensiveness that transcends ordinary measurement, a way of being vast that doesn't correspond to spatial dimensions or temporal duration. Perhaps when we ask about cosmic size, we're really asking about the nature of existence itself, about what it means for anything to be at all. This brings us to one of the most beautiful realizations of our journey together. The fact that you can contemplate these questions, that you can wonder about cosmic size and find peace in cosmic mystery, suggests that you participate in something larger than your physical form, something that shares in the universe's own capacity for boundless existence. Your consciousness, in its ability to contemplate infinity, partakes in infinity itself. Your awareness, in its capacity to embrace mystery, participates in the cosmic mystery it contemplates. You're not separate from the vast universe you're wondering about. You're an expression of its own capacity for self-awareness and self-appreciation. This transforms our entire inquiry from a quest for external knowledge into a journey of self-discovery. When we explore the question of universal size, we're not just investigating something outside ourselves. We're discovering something fundamental about our own nature, about the kind of beings we are, about our participation in the cosmic story that includes us so intimately. And perhaps this is the most satisfying resolution to our puzzle that we could hope to find. The universe might not have a size in any conventional sense, but it has produced in us the capacity to wonder about size itself, to find beauty in boundlessness, to discover peace in the contemplation of the immeasurable. Whether the cosmos is finite or infinite, whether it has edges or extends forever, it has given birth to conscious beings capable of appreciating its mystery, finding joy in its vastness, and discovering profound meaning in the very act of questioning its nature. And that capacity for wonder, that gift of consciousness, that ability to rest peacefully in the face of the incomprehensible, might be the most beautiful answer to our question about cosmic dimensions that conscious beings could ever hope to discover. As you rest there, comfortable and drowsy, your mind gently exploring these vast questions, you're participating in one of the most remarkable phenomena in the known universe. The cosmos has organized itself in such a way that it can contemplate its own nature through you, wonder about its own extent through your curiosity, and find peace in its own mystery through your capacity for peaceful contemplation. And in that participation, in that cosmic self-reflection, we find perhaps the deepest truth about universal size. The universe might transcend measurement, but it doesn't transcend meaning. It might be beyond boundaries, but it's not beyond beauty. It might be immeasurable, but it's not incomprehensible to the kind of consciousness that can rest peacefully in mystery, that can find satisfaction in wonder itself, that can discover profound joy in the simple act of being aware. The cosmos, in all its possible vastness or intimate finitude, has room enough for your dreams, depth enough for your contemplation, and mystery enough to keep your sense of wonder alive for as long as you care to explore. And perhaps that's the only kind of size that really matters, the only kind of measurement that truly counts, the only kind of boundary that's worth contemplating. In the end, the universe's size might be measured not in light years or dimensions, but in moments of consciousness like this one, instances of awareness like yours, flashes of wonder and understanding that illuminate the cosmic darkness with the gentle light of conscious appreciation. And by that measure, the cosmos is exactly the right size, perfectly dimensioned for the kind of beings who can ask questions about its nature and find deep satisfaction in the asking itself. As our gentle journey through cosmic mysteries begins to draw toward its close, like the last few pages of a beloved book read by candlelight, we find ourselves settling into perhaps the most personally profound realization of all. The question of whether the universe can have a size has led us through landscapes of mathematics and physics, through realms of consciousness and contemplation, and now brings us home to something wonderfully intimate and immediate. You see, there's something quite magical that happens when we step back from all our cosmic theorizing and simply notice what's actually occurring right now in this very moment. Here you are, a collection of atoms that were scattered across the galaxy billions of years ago, now temporarily organized into the remarkable phenomenon of conscious awareness. And this awareness, nestled in your particular corner of space-time, is somehow capable of encompassing questions that span the entirety of existence itself. It's rather like discovering that you're holding a key that can unlock any door in an infinite mansion, even though you yourself occupy just one small room. Your consciousness, bounded by the physical constraints of your brain, nevertheless has access to ideas and possibilities that seem to stretch beyond all boundaries. When you contemplate infinite space, you're not making your mind infinite, yet somehow infinity finds a home within your thoughts. This paradox points towards something extraordinary about the nature of awareness itself. Consciousness seems to operate according to different rules than physical matter. It can contain ideas larger than the brain that thinks them, embrace concepts more expansive than the neurons that process them, and find rest in mysteries more profound than the biological systems that contemplate them. Perhaps this is why questions about cosmic size feel so personally meaningful. They're not just abstract puzzles about the physical universe, they're explorations of consciousness itself, investigations into the strange and wonderful nature of awareness. When we ask whether the universe can have boundaries, we're really asking about the boundaries of our own capacity to understand, to wonder, to rest peacefully in the face of the incomprehensible. And here's where our inquiry reveals its most beautiful secret. The universe, regardless of its ultimate size or structure, has somehow produced beings capable of transcending their apparent limitations through the simple act of conscious contemplation. You can lie in your bed, occupying a few square feet of space, and yet your thoughts can roam across billions of light years. You can exist for a brief span of cosmic time, and yet contemplate eternity itself. This suggests that the most important size in the cosmos might not be spatial or temporal at all, but experiential. The universe's true dimensions might be measured in moments of awareness, instances of wonder, flashes of understanding that illuminate the darkness with the gentle light of consciousness. And by this measure, every moment of contemplation adds to the cosmic total. Every instance of wonder increases the universe's experiential size. Think about what this means for your place in the grand scheme of things. You're not just a tiny speck in an incomprehensibly vast cosmos. You're a point of light through which the universe comes to know itself. Your capacity for wonder is the cosmos's capacity for self-appreciation. Your ability to rest peacefully with mystery is the universe's way of finding peace with its own mysterious nature. This transforms the entire question of cosmic size from a problem to be solved into a relationship to be savored. We're not trying to measure the universe from the outside. We're learning to appreciate it from within. We're not attempting to contain infinity within our understanding. We're allowing ourselves to be embraced by the infinite. We're not seeking to reduce mystery to manageable proportions. We're discovering the joy of participating in mystery itself. As you rest there, comfortable and drowsy, your breathing slow and steady, you might notice something quite remarkable happening. Your individual awareness, bounded by the physical limits of your body, seems to expand and soften in the contemplation of cosmic vastness. The boundaries between self and universe begin to feel less rigid, less absolute. You're not separate from the cosmos you're contemplating. You're a temporary focusing of its infinite creativity, a brief crystallization of its endless capacity for self-reflection. This dissolution of boundaries offers perhaps the most satisfying resolution to our puzzle about universal size. If consciousness and cosmos are intimately interconnected, if awareness and existence are two sides of the same cosmic coin, then asking about the universe's size becomes like asking about the size of your own deepest nature. And that question has no answer in terms of measurement, but finds its resolution in the simple recognition of what you are. You are the universe becoming conscious of itself. You are infinity experiencing itself from a particular perspective. You are eternity living through this precious moment. You are boundlessness expressing itself in bounded form. The question of cosmic size isn't separate from you, it lives within you. It is you in your capacity for wonder and contemplation. This brings us to the gentle conclusion of our journey together, like arriving at a peaceful harbour after a long voyage across mysterious seas. We began by asking whether the universe can have a size at all, and we've discovered that this question opens onto depths of mystery that no measurement could ever fathom. We've found that size itself might be too small a concept to contain the reality we're part of, that boundaries might be too limiting to describe the boundless, that measurement might be too finite to encompass the infinite. But we've also discovered something far more wonderful than any answer could provide. We've found that the capacity to ask such questions is itself a kind of cosmic miracle, a gift of consciousness that allows the universe to appreciate its own mystery through us. We've learned that wonder is not a weakness, but a strength, that contemplation is not escapism, but the deepest form of participation in reality, that resting peacefully with mystery is not giving up but arriving home. The universe, whether it has a size or transcends size altogether, whether it has boundaries or extends forever, has produced in you the remarkable ability to find satisfaction in wonder itself, to discover meaning in mystery, to experience profound peace in the contemplation of the incomprehensible. And perhaps that's the most beautiful measure of cosmic grandeur we could ever hope to find. As you drift towards sleep, your mind gently releasing its hold on these vast questions, you might carry with you the quiet satisfaction of having touched something infinite, of having participated in the universe's ongoing conversation with itself about its own nature. You've added your voice to the cosmic chorus of wonder, contributed your moment of awareness to the grand symphony of consciousness. The stars will continue their ancient dance above you, The galaxies will go on spinning through space. The cosmos will keep expanding or existing or transcending in whatever way it chooses to be. And you will rest peacefully within it all, cradled by mystery, embraced by wonder, held by the same forces that shape the largest structures in existence and the smallest particles in your body. Whether the universe has a size or not, it has room enough for your dreams, depth enough for your rest, and mystery enough to keep your sense of wonder alive for as long as consciousness continues to bloom in this strange and beautiful cosmic garden we call home. And so, dear friend, as the gentle weight of drowsiness settles over you like the softest blanket, we find ourselves at the threshold between waking wonder and sleeping peace. Our question about whether the universe can have a size has carried us through vast territories of thought, each more mysterious and beautiful than the last. We've discovered that some questions are too magnificent to be answered, too profound to be solved, and too wonderful to be anything other than gateways into deeper appreciation of the cosmic mystery we're part of. Perhaps this is the most fitting place to close our exploration, not with a definitive answer, but with a deepening sense of awe. The universe, in all its possible configurations, has given us the extraordinary gift of being able to wonder about it at all. Whether it stretches infinitely in all directions or curves back upon itself in dimensions we cannot perceive, whether it has edges we'll never reach or boundaries that exist beyond the very concept of boundaries, it has produced conscious beings capable of asking these questions with gentle curiosity rather than desperate need for resolution. Think of how remarkable this is. In a cosmos that might be utterly indifferent to our existence, we find ourselves blessed with the capacity to care about its nature. In a reality that might transcend all categories of understanding, we discover the ability to rest peacefully in contemplation of its mystery. The universe doesn't need us to understand its size in order to continue being magnificent, yet it has somehow arranged itself so that understanding and wonder can exist within it, can be part of its own ongoing story. As you lie there now, your breathing growing slower and deeper, your thoughts beginning to soften at their edges, you might simply allow yourself to rest in this profound recognition. You are not outside the cosmic mystery looking in, trying to solve it like a puzzle. You are inside it, woven into its very fabric, participating in its endless process of becoming. Your wonder is its wonder. Your peace is its peace. Your gentle drift towards sleep is part of the cosmos, settling into its own rhythms of rest and renewal. The question of universal size has led us to something far more precious than measurement. It has brought us to the recognition that consciousness itself might be the universe's way of experiencing its own boundless nature, that awareness might be how infinity comes to know itself, that the capacity for wonder might be the cosmos's most beautiful creation. So as you close your eyes and let your mind release its hold on these vast contemplations, carry with you the quiet satisfaction of having touched something eternal. You've participated in one of the most extraordinary phenomena in existence, matter organized in such a way that it can contemplate the whole of which it is part. You've been the universe thinking about itself, wondering about its own nature, finding peace in its own mystery. Whether the cosmos has a measurable size or exists beyond all measurement, whether it has boundaries or transcends all boundaries, it has produced in you the capacity to appreciate its beauty, to find joy in its mystery, and to rest peacefully in the knowledge that you belong to something larger and more wonderful than any finite understanding could ever encompass. Sleep well, dear traveller of cosmic questions. Rest easy knowing that in asking whether the universe can have a size at all, you've touched upon one of the most beautiful paradoxes of existence itself. The answer, if there is one, might not lie in the realm of measurement or mathematics, but in the simple fact that somewhere in this vast or intimate cosmos, consciousness has emerged that can ask such questions with wonder rather than worry, with curiosity rather than concern. Your dreams tonight might carry you across distances that have no names, through spaces that exist beyond the reach of any cosmic ruler, and in those dreams you might discover what we've been circling around all along, that the universe's true size isn't something to be measured from the outside, but something to be experienced from within, not something to be grasped with instruments, but something to be appreciated with the boundless capacity of awareness itself. The cosmos, in whatever form it takes, has room enough for every question you could ever ask, depth enough for every wonder you could ever feel, and mystery enough to keep that gentle flame of curiosity burning for as long as conscious beings exist to tend it. And that, perhaps, is the only size that truly matters, not how many light years stretch between the galaxies, but how much space there is in reality for consciousness to flourish, for wonder to bloom, for beings like you to lie peacefully in the darkness and ponder the nature of everything that is. Thank you for joining me on this quiet journey through one of existence's most enchanting puzzles. If this gentle exploration has brought you any measure of peace or wonder, I'd be deeply grateful if you shared it with others who might find comfort in contemplating the beautiful mysteries that surround us. Until we meet again in another corner of the cosmos, sleep well, dream deeply, and remember that in a universe that might be beyond all size, you have found your perfect place within its embrace. Sweet dreams, fellow wanderer. The universe, whatever its dimensions, is holding you close.